Paul Robeson. Braxton was surprised to find an entire football field behind the door. He followed an excited Paul Robeson leaving a football game, dressed in full uniform. He would have never thought to see a football player on his journey. Paul Robeson's broad shoulders and larger-than-life image made him the perfect athlete. His bulging biceps were begging to break away from his jersey. Braxton was really happy about Paul Robeson being an athlete because he thought that he would be able to have a front seat row at a football game. Braxton thought again. If he was going to sit front row, why was Paul Robeson leaving? Paul Robeson zoomed from the field and to the locker room. Right behind him, Braxton walked through the locker room door. He was in for such a surprise. They went from a loud and rowdy football field to a bland and boring courtroom. Paul Robeson's shoulder pads and jersey shirt were replaced by a dark suit and tie. His hands were no longer filled with a football. The ball was replaced by a stack of papers. The green grass was now brown wood, brown floor, brown seats, and a brown bench. The frantic flow of fans were now a sad sight of suspects and supporters. Paul Robeson sat stern and serious. He patiently awaited his turn to speak for his client. If he was nervous or tense, he sure didn't show it. Paul Robeson stayed in the room long enough to say his piece. He briskly barged through the big brown doors. Braxton moved with him. Center stage stood ahead of Paul Robeson, and he took his place right on the X. Now, he was covered in a long dark robe. The robe was the color of a lasting sunset, trimmed in gold. Braxton didn't know how, but he believed it all. The tall athlete with broad shoulders, the stern attorney with a serious scowl, was now a star on a stage. The eyes in the crowd were locked into Paul Robeson's every movement. His thick and smoky voice boomed like rolling thunder. His stride was more like a float across the stage. His intense tone tore through the hearts of the audience in a serious scene. But it was when he crooned to the crowd that they erupted into a calamity of clapping. What can't this man do? Braxton didn't have to wait long to find out. Paul Robeson exited stage left with Braxton flowing in his wind. It was just a movie theater. Braxton was eager to see what kind of job Paul Robeson would take at a movie theater. He was confused when Paul Robeson sat down. We're watching a movie? Braxton thought. He sat down, mimicking Paul Robeson to see what else would happen. The voice from nowhere had yet to speak. The movie scene finally showed on the big screen, and it all made sense. Paul Robeson was one of the actors in the movie. This time, he was really larger than life. The movie had to have been over, because soon after starting, the voice from nowhere made an announcement. Paul Robeson was an athlete, attorney, actor, and activist. Your adventure, should you choose to accept it, is to imagine what kind of careers you can command. Braxton was excited about this chance. He knew all the jobs he wanted to do. He knew that he wanted to be a soccer player, a doctor, design video games, and work at the amusement park. He also wanted to work at the zoo, so he could have his own pet tiger. He wanted to work at the fast food spot by his house, so he could eat unlimited ice cream. He wanted to be a teacher, so that he could cancel homework forever. Braxton looked around, and nothing was happening. Just then, he remembered he wanted to work at the movies, so that he could watch every movie when it first came out. He also wanted to imagine what kind of careers you can command. The voice from nowhere repeated itself. Braxton understood what the voice from nowhere meant. It was just that he wanted to do so many things. He took a deep breath and thought for a moment. He decided that he did not want to work at the zoo. He did want a pet tiger, but not a pet tiger, and an elephant, and giraffe. He definitely didn't want a pet gorilla. Those things were scary. He'd always imagined the gorilla picking him up and throwing him around like a rag doll. He thought about something else quickly before that image could appear in front of him. He also decided that he didn't want to work at the amusement park. He loved to ride the rides and eat the food, but the workers never did that type of thing. They would pick up trash, and they always forgot to smile. Braxton could finally see it. He would be a video game designer first. He saw himself behind a computer. The movie screen had turned into a green screen. Braxton would create images on his computer, and they'd show up on the green screen. All of his friends would practice playing his games first. If they could beat the game in less than a week, he'd make it harder before letting them play again. He would also play soccer, but only on the weekends. He could see himself running down the soccer field. He was just about to score when a huge kid, more like an adult, ran into him to take away the ball. Braxton fell and twisted his leg. Never mind, making video games is safer. Braxton could also see himself working as a doctor. He'd be the doctor helping the soccer player that hurt his leg. It made him smile because now that soccer player wasn't him. He'd become a doctor after he was a video game designer. Most of the doctors he knew had white hair. Braxton could see himself wearing a white coat with white hair. Ew.
Congratulations,
The voice from nowhere interrupted him.
your ideas award you to the next level.
2 doors appeared before Braxton. Which one will he choose? Ethel Payne, George Washington Carver,